Hey sightseers, as you can see, Marty and I are out hitting up the blackberries. We found the mother lode of bushes out here in North Woods of Wisconsin, and I thought I'd quickly share with you some tips to help you A, identify your wild blackberries, and B, to help making your berry picking experience go a lot smoother than it would be otherwise. These are your wild blackberry bushes, and you can tell because it has a cluster of 5 leaves that make kind of a star-shaped pattern. And then if you flip the leaf over, you can see, if you look real close, it has these tiny hooks or thorns on them, as well as the actual stems and the vines, the branches. And then of course when you look and you see the blackberry fruit, well obviously you know you've got a blackberry bush, but you'll want to identify your blackberry bushes early in the season so you know where to come back and look for blackberries later in the year. Depending on what growing season or growing zone you live in will determine when your blackberries will be ripened. I think up here in the North Woods of Wisconsin we're zone 5, and normally we see blackberries ripe about the middle of August. For some reason this year we're seeing them already at the end of July. I'm thinking it's because of all the hot weather we had this summer and all the rain. When you're picking for blackberries, you want to look for fruit that is fully ripened, because blackberries themselves don't ripen once they're off the vine. And so this is what you would call a ripened piece of fruit. These here are too early, and probably it'll take a few days before they ripen to that nice dark juicy purple color that you see in my dish. Some of the blackberries are partially ripened. They may look more like this here. I mean, you could pick those now, but they're gonna have a more tart flavor. I personally don't mind them when they're this tart. To me, it tastes more like a sweet tart, but other people prefer them to be darker in color. It's all about your preference, and obviously if you're picking them, you can try them to see if it's to your level of sweetness or ripeness. Nature's candy. If you look here, this vine has some really tiny ones. Now, yeah, they're ripe and we could pick them, but I'm telling you, these are going to be full of seeds and don't taste very well. And so these you're going to want to skip unless you like eating a lot of seeds. The other thing you want to keep in mind when you're out blackberry hunting or picking is that the thorns are really super sharp. And so as you can see, I'm wearing jeans for this expedition. I personally think it helps provide a level of protection. Yeah, the thorns can pick through the jeans, but you're not going to get as scratched up as if you were wearing shorts. Also, you want to consider the fact that if you're going out picking, you don't necessarily want to go in midday because you're going to be sweating your buns off. And 2, if you're dressed wearing jeans, again, you're going to be sweating your buns off. So we prefer to pick either early in the morning or later in the day. Marty, of course, doesn't follow that. And as you can see, he's already scratched up from the blackberries. The other thing is you're not going to be the only creature out in the woods, and so you might want to wear a hat and spray it with some bug spray, because this time of year the deer flies are pretty nasty and they like to buzz your head and land and bite. And of course you've got the mosquitoes, and not to mention there's a wildlife out here with you, and so you're going to want to make a lot of noise so that you don't accidentally step on a snake or run across a bear eating in the blackberries. And if you make a lot of noise, you'll have a tendency to scare off the wildlife before you run across it. There's an owl out in the woods that you can hear. I don't know if you'll hear it on the video. You might have to put headphones in to catch it. So what you can hear in the background is two owls, two hoot owls calling to one another. Isn't that just so freaking cool? That's why I love coming out in the middle of the woods and just hanging out, because all the wildlife out here is just so awesome. Getting back to the blackberries, oftentimes you'll find fruit hiding underneath, so you'll want to lift the vines up to not miss out on any of that juicy fruit. One last thing before we head on out, my final tip is to make sure that wherever you're picking, you're allowed to pick, because you never know, the place that you're scoping out could be on somebody's private land, and so make sure that where you're picking, it's either public land or if it's private land that you have permission to do so. And with that, I think Marty and I are gonna head on out of here now that we've shared for you some tips on wild blackberry hunting. That way when Armageddon comes, you're able to forage for yourself, or when the zombie apocalypse comes, who knows. But at least you'll be able to eat some berries. Special thanks goes out to all our fellow sightseers here on Patreon and PayPal. Without you, these videos wouldn't be possible. It's Queen Anne's lace.
Soft. The queen is soft.